All right, so for the second video out of the gate, I am going to do a bit of an install. This is a piece of equipment that I don't consider a major upgrade, but it's something I wanted to play with. And that will be the new design of the Wi-Fi card they're using that works with the Roanoke controllers. It is smaller than the original model. Functionality, it's supposed to connect much more quickly using Bluetooth. And after that, it's purely cloud-based. Looks to be similar in design. There's obviously going to be a mast where you'll be able to connect your antenna. It looks like that there is a single connector port on the back that goes into the main controller card. And the neat thing about it is the cable is the same. It looks like the antenna is the same. So I'll probably reuse the existing parts off the current card. Now, a couple of things I will tell you, and I learned this kind of from experience. So there is a hollow space up underneath the pellet hopper. If you don't look what's up under there, you may find a surprise. I actually did find a dirt dauber nest. Nothing big since they're dormant. It's December 2020, but still enough to be a bit of a surprise. Also some spider webs, and I am not a huge fan of spiders. I don't think anybody is, but that was a bit of an experience. So not too bad to clean out on a regular basis. I think it actually, especially in the summer months, becomes a bit of an imperative unless you want creepy crawlies in there. I did go ahead and pre-loosen this. I did it the proper way the first time. I will say that finger tight is probably not the best way to go, just to crank it down and also provide the best possible watertight seal. But you notice that the card itself comes loose very quickly and very easily. Now the card in and of itself is already linked. There is power connected to this currently. What I'm going to do, just to be safe, because again it's always better to be safe than sorry, is to go ahead and disconnect the power and then start the connection process again. Super straightforward is my best guess. Notice that the connector, same thing going. There is a screen on this one that is absent on the new card, but again, I don't think that's a big deal since the setup occurs via the app as opposed to actually having to put it with a laptop or a PC. Now, literally, it appears to be that simple. I'm actually kind of surprised at how quickly it went. So now comes time to actually mate this back up again. Let's see here. I'm trying to figure if I want to do it. There we go. And using the existing nut, that's what I was afraid of. Got this so easily in the first try. That's the frustrating part. So I can confirm that the existing nut does go in there with no issues. Matter of just getting it finger tight. Tightening it just a wee bit. And we're good to go. There we go. So this one, I'll just simply reinstall the existing antenna. It's still functional. It's a pretty simple device, so no big deal there. And now it's a matter of walking through the setup process. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, so we have picked back up. Had a little bit of a snafu when I was installing the card, and it was actually a user error. So after a bit of debugging, the Wi-Fi card is now fully online. The app is fully installed, and I figure what a better way to test this than with a couple of prime ribs, boneless. One is 7 pounds, one is 6 pounds, and I've taken the liberty of putting in a couple of pans of beef stock, just kitchen basics. And if you notice on top of each prime rib, there is a homemade garlic compound butter. I did season them with kosher salt and cracked peppercorns, and then laid on the butter on top of it. It's a mixture of garlic puree that I made out of some roasted garlic and some fresh garlic, so it's got a little bit of bite to it. It's got some thyme, it's got some rosemary, it's got some kosher salt, and this is pretty much the method I use each year. Sadly, this one prime rib, I ran out of butter. As you can see on the side, it's not quite covered, but the other one is fully covered. One of the goals of using these pans, it's not to create extra moisture. I've never had a problem with food drying out inside the gridiron. Hopefully I'm going to be able to make the jus with a smoked jus. So I've got some red wine that I'll be using a little bit later. I'm going to make a roux to go with it, thicken it up and see if it turns into something that's actually dippable, but also could be perhaps put on top of potatoes. So what I'll be doing today is a set program, playing around with some of the new app features, and you've got the ability to create custom programs. So what I'll be doing is I'll be running for 45 minutes at 175 to pick up some smoke, and then go into a minimum of 3 hours for the big one at 225. I do have my fireboard hooked up, and I'll be using that to check both ambient temperature and the temperature of the two proteins. Hopefully this is gonna be a fun little experiment. So far the card was super easy to set up once I realized that I probably should have read the instructions. So that's the neat part about the Wi-Fi, is it pretty much is idiot proof. As far as the app, I'll be exploring it throughout the video today, and hopefully this is something that I can really play around with and get this dialed in to make this even easier to use than it was before. So we'll check back in a bit. Okay, so we are in the final stages of getting these prime ribs off the smoker. I've already taken one pan of the drippings and the beef broth and the butter mixture and strained out the solids, skimmed off some of the oil that was resting on top, added some roux, a little bit of red wine, a little bit of cracked black pepper, and some salt. And it's a pretty darn good au jus in my humble opinion. As far as the larger of the two prime ribs, it's ready to go. The other one will come off as well. And at this point, I'm happy with the Wi-Fi card. I'm happy with the app. There are a couple of things that are going to be part of a learning curve, I imagine. And I'm probably going to just leave this au jus in here until it congeals a bit, because I'll be able to dispose of it more easily that way. A couple of things that I am going to have to get used to with the app. First and foremost, I keep missing it, and I've actually suggested that they change the name of the app to the the Blaz'n app or something a little bit simpler to find in the list. Unfortunately, I closed out the app completely, and it did not retain an active signal, which means that I lost my my program. But when I reset the program without the smoke phase, it jumped right back to and stuck with it. It changed temperatures at the exact times I needed. It gave me the alerts I needed. I don't use the Blaz'n probe. I haven't for a long time, mainly because I kept messing it up. By messing it up, I mean that I would forget that I had the temp probe set to something, and it would screw up my cook a little bit. So I tend to rely on my fireboard a bit more. As far as the cook, I think you can see that they look pretty solid so far. As far as the cook itself, I mean, it's all but over. They both hit 220, or rather, I'm sorry, 125. Now it's going to be a trip to the oven for these things before slicing to caramelize that crust a bit. You can see that in terms of the overall look, this is definitely going to be a mid-rare. The smoke looks, I'm betting money there's a halfway decent smoke ring on this sucker. So at this point, stripping off the gloves so I can actually touch the camera and so on, I'm content. Like I said, this prime rib recipe is something that I've used for a long time. I'm happy with the system so far. I like the Wi-Fi app. Functionally speaking, the old one worked fine, but especially for new users, it's gonna be a lot easier to set up, and it's gonna be a lot easier to do tailor-made programs. My understanding is that they will come to a point sometime, hopefully in 2021, where we can actually upload some recipes and whatnot to the system, and that way when we're seeing the results of other people, maybe it gives us a stalking horse, whether it's the programmable schedule or whether it's actually going to be something like, well, just getting an idea about what recipes to try the first time you buy a smoker, and if you're new to the act of using a pellet smoker or a stick burner or anything else. So overall, I consider this a successful cook. I'll probably throw in a couple of photos with a voiceover in terms of final product, but that one's a wrap. Okay, I guess the proof will be in the pudding. It rested for a few minutes while I finished up something. I took one of the prime ribs over to some friends. I figured they deserved a good Christmas dinner. And mine has probably been sitting out for maybe about, this one's probably been out for 15 minutes at most. So let's see here. And currently it is 136 on the dot. So prime rib, medium rare, just like I like it. So the method I like. Obviously, I've used a version of this recipe for a long time. Let's see what it looks like once it's cut. Did run it under the broiler. That accounts for a little bit of the crust on top. And as you can see, it is a perfect medium rare. One of the things I really do love about the reverse sear method is the absence of gradation. So no real gray banding, a little bit here at the top. That's from the broiler. You know, my personal preference is I do like a bone-in prime rib whenever possible. I do believe that the bones not only serve as a heat shield, but they're kind of the, you know, the chef's cut, so to speak. It's a nice little bit of snack at the end of it, or at the beginning of the process, really. As far as this prime rib goes, I think it's gorgeous. I like the way the au jus turned out. It is super buttery. And it probably is time, since I'm a grown-up now, to invest in a gravy separator. That being said, I probably, once I cool this down and have leftovers for tomorrow, I will be more than likely skimming a little bit of fat off the top so it's a little less unctuous in terms of mouthfeel. The green beans are from my friend Chrissy. She was nice enough to give me a side that is somewhat carb-friendly, although Shinerbach not so carb-friendly. So let's see how this tastes. Oh yeah, that's the stuff. Yeah, if I did it again, I probably would have dry brined it a little bit longer. I do like a little bit more salt. Nice peppery flavor to it, a little bit of bite. Let's see what happens when I add a bit of the au jus. That works. The salt in there helps compensate. My personal preference, again, I do think that a salt crust, especially when you're working on a 12-hour schedule as opposed to a 24 or 36-hour schedule, probably gives prime rib the better flavor. It's beefy, and I guess that's really what prime rib should be. So I hope all of you have had a great Christmas. Oh, excuse me while I stuff my face with the world's best green beans. Hope you have a great Christmas. The Blaz'n WiFi card, I think, has been a rousing success. Prime rib is actually pretty easy to do. It's less finicky than brisket. I will say that I think that the Wi-Fi card, you know, if you're an experienced smoker who's already got the card built in, do you need it? No. Is the app worth it? That's a personal choice. For me, yeah, I think that the app has room to grow. I think that the app in and of itself will, I don't know, make it easier to dial in some things, especially in terms of getting those small adjustments done in terms of when I know there's a schedule I want to keep, for example, 45-minute smoke phase at 175, and then bumping it up. The other big benefit would be that for newer smokers, I hate to use the term that pellet grills are idiot-proof. That demeans the process, but it will help make an average cook a damn good cook. And I think that's really what pellet grills, I think that's what gravity feed smokers like the Master Build, or even better yet, the Stumps versions or the Stump Bill versions and so on. I think that's what they're meant to do, is put the tools that make you get a little bit closer to that competition level or pro level. Really, then you're looking at rubs, you're looking at if you choose to use sauces, and most importantly, it's going to always be the cut of the meat. Overall, I think this was a success, and I'm going to eat some food. Again, have a very Merry Christmas. Hopefully 2021 brings us all a better time than the previous year has done. Thanks.